In Myrtle Beach, you always go at your own pace. Lie out on the sand, lie out by the pool, go boogie boarding, go surfing, walk the boardwalk, walk the marsh walk, golf at one of 90 golf courses, mini golf at one of 50 mini golf courses, fish off a pier, fish from a chartered boat, go shopping, get drinks, eat the freshest seafood. The list is exhaustive, but the experience isn't. You can go all out or do nothing at all. How you relax is up to you. There is so much to do and explore, whether you're traveling with friends, family, or just yourself. With 60 miles of beach, you're going to find your place. If this sounds like what you need, then this is where you belong.
Twisted Tea and Myrtle Beach wholesaler Better Brands Incorporated know our consumers enjoy relaxing days on the water with Twisted Tea's original hard iced tea in hand. It's important to remember drink and boat responsibly. Choose to be or designate a sober skipper before leaving the dock. Do it for your family and your friends, your passengers, and everyone else on board. Twisted Tea salutes all sober skippers who take a pledge. Cheers, and we'll see you on the water.
Realtree has always had a connection to the fishing industry and the outdoor lifestyle. In 2016, Realtree expanded on the traditional business of creating the world's most effective camouflage patterns to create a fishing brand and family of patterns designed to connect the woods to the water and strengthen the bond between the two worlds. We couldn't be more excited to be working with the industry's top brands, retailers, and anglers to continue our growth, and we hope that you will join us. Enjoy Realtree fishing patterns inshore, offshore, on the lake, or at the dock. Learn more about the extensive line Realtree fishing patterns, apparel, gear, and more at Realtree.com. Trilogy Outdoors.
All right, folks, welcome back to Trilogy Outdoors. And this week's episode, we're joined by the Stevens, or the Steves, or the Goldfinches, or however you want to look at it. I am in the Trilogy podcast studio hanging out with Mr. Steve and with Senator Stephen. And we got a lot to talk about, buddy. You've been busy.
It's a great time of year, isn't it?
It is wonderful. It is wonderful. I spent quite a bit of time on the road last night getting my incredibly young, beautiful 8.2 processor. And I just got to say this. I hunt a beautiful plantation here that a good friend of ours allows me to hunt. And I have shot, this makes 4 in 7 years. I've shot 4 deer in 7 years. I don't pull the trigger to pull the trigger. I find that the easiest thing to do deer hunting is to pull the trigger. Mm-hmm. That is the easiest thing to do. But I made a mistake last night, and you can blame it on all kinds of things. I've got the new Trigicon that'll be here next week. I wish it would have been here this week, but I do have a new scope coming next week. But it didn't help much. I'm just going to say it was a lack of judgment, a lapse in judgment. And what I had was 8 does in the field. And I knew we'd had a big buck on camera in that certain area. And I saw said big buck come to the field as the light was dimming. And also a younger buck that came to the field. Well, they got behind a tree, got me blocked. I couldn't see. They ran off every single doe. And I thought I was looking at the big buck through the scope, through a pine tree, watching, wasn't going to pull the trigger until he got clear. And then all of a sudden, out comes that big body, walks right to the corn pile, and I put the binoculars up, looked, couldn't see, put the scope up, could see tallish, but didn't see the mass. I couldn't make it out. So I pulled the trigger and ground checked, and it wasn't what I was looking for, but.
It was a tiny buck.
It's called backstraps and sausage, baby. Backstraps and sausage. So
little ground shrinkage.
It is what we have.
Pull the trigger is the secret there.
That's right. Pulling the trigger. Why? I mean, you can't kill them on the couch, but yeah, it's been great. And you got out. You went. I mean, heck, you get back from Colorado, and then we're trying to figure out if we're going to do a podcast on Thursday or Friday. Blah blah blah. And the next thing I know, I get a text from you. I'm just getting inshore. I'll text you later. So you went offshore. So how was that?
It was fantastic.
Y'all went out of North Carolina, right? Went up somewhere out of Southport area. Is that where y'all were?
We did. We don't get a chance to do anything other than fish or spearfish a lot when we're diving. But this week we took a trip to go hunt for megalodon teeth, and had a fantastic time. Hit a little spot that really looked like a virgin spot that, the guys up there had not been hitting very hard, and we ended up picking up right close to 70 megalodons and quite a few big ones. Had a great time. Visibility was nice. The bull sharks were horrible, and I've talked about this on this show before, Inglis.
Yep.
They're just getting worse and worse, and I don't know what to do other than kill them when you have, the need to kill them. You got to kill them. But every ledge this time of year seems to be holding 4 or 5 bull sharks, and they're just aggressive. We didn't kill fish.
Right.
We weren't there to kill fish. We didn't kill fish, and yet we were what anybody else in the world would call attacked multiple times. I mean, rammed, not bitten, but rammed, tossed over, turned over, hit with the fins. I mean, multiple times. They were very aggressive, and I'm getting sick of them. And so, third dive, we put power heads on. And
well, the power of this story is that you and I spoke this week about GoPro video, which, by the way, folks, make sure TrilogyOutdoorsMedia.com. We're going to have some incredible videos coming to you, multiple things, but you said that the battery was jarred loose on the GoPro from the bull shark.
The very first dive, I had the GoPro going, and on the ascent, he hit me in my back like Mach 5, like right between my tank and my right arm.
What do you think he was doing?
I don't know. I mean, just being aggressive, I guess. I mean, sometimes they do that.
Does he think you've got fish close and he's trying to knock them out of your hand?
We
trying to knock the spear gun out of your hand?
We didn't have any fish.
What's his theory? He's got to have.
I agree.
We've had this discussion. I've had this discussion with lots of people. I swear to you, sharks are just like dogs. You got some dogs that are golden retrievers, and you got some dogs that are pit bulls, or something in between.
Bulls or pit bulls, there's no doubt.
Right, and some of them are just mean. I mean, some of them just have an attitude and are mean. And the bull sharks are the pit bulls of the ocean. They're just mean, and you got to watch them.
I think they've learned. I think they're evolving. They understand what a spear gun looks like. They know what you're there for, and they are trying to. They're just like teenagers. They're trying to push it. They want it faster, quicker, instant gratification.
That's this is crazy. I told Stephen coming into this podcast that this week I had an encounter with two pit bulls, 2 bull sharks as well. One in 120 foot of water, one in 65 foot of water. Both of them we fought. Well, we got one to the boat. The one in 65 foot of water we got to the boat to see. I got great video of that. I'm gonna get that up as well. Got to the boat, and it was probably a 300-pounder.
Yeah.
But I can think back 6 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe even sooner, where if I caught a bull shark or we did battle with a bull shark, it was like at the end, you go to the end of the year and say, oh, I remember this trip.
Yeah.
Caught a bull shark. That one trip.
It was
now
rare.
It's like.
Yeah, it was up until, I'll go a little more than that. I'll go more like 8 years. Starting about 8 years ago, we started seeing them a lot more. It used to be where you'd see a bull shark once a season. You saw a lot of sand tigers, even tigers, a lot of like duskies. Now it's different. Now you see multiple bull sharks on every site you go to, and they're very aggressive. I don't know what's changed. I don't know if the finning practices of the world, has changed.
That's my theory.
They've cut it off.
They've taken the big sharks. They've taken some makos. They've taken the sharks that have that. Apparently, there's a desire amongst the group that is finning to take certain sharks, and that's made room for these over-aggressive bull sharks that have come in and filled the slot. I think that's what's happened.
And I think the protections lately have also probably increased the number of sharks, period, out there. And do
they scare you guys?
I'll tell you what.
Yeah. Yes.
Not normally, but when they sneak up on you, there's a difference, right? And these sharks, like, on my first dive, that one hit me from my back. I never saw him, okay? So that's a problem. Kent got rolled on the bottom. Like
literally rolled over.
One bowled him over, like hit him so hard it just rolled him on the bottom.
Wow.
And then on my, I can't remember, second or third dive, I just happened to make a turn, just out of habit, just sort of turn and check out, my whole surroundings. And there was one coming up from the bottom behind me at like Mach 5, and I caught him right at 8 feet and stuck the gun right into his nose. But, coming at me wide open, mouth open. But I wasn't he came up from my back.
Right.
Both of them came up from my back.
Wow.
Neither of them approached me from my front. Both of them came around my back and came up behind me.
So I wonder if a shark biologist would step in at some point and tell us whether or not that is typical bull behavior, whether that is a desire, whether that's something they do. Do they knock their prey unconscious? Do they bump them? I mean, what is it they're doing in that, or is that specifically about spear fishermen?
I don't know.
Very interesting.
I'd love to hear that as well. And, we do have an honorary doctorate of marine science from Coastal Carolina here who has some connections over there. Maybe we can get that set up.
Did you know that I'm an honorary doctor of marine science?
I'm impressed.
I'd like for y'all to call me doctor.
Dr. Senator.
Oh, I was
Senator
so
Doctor.
disappointed my daughter was married before she got her doctorate, so she couldn't be Dr. Goldfinch.
That's right.
If you want to be silly about something, pay for that much education. I would love to have at least been able to see that on a. She's Dr. Smith.
So what is a law? Esquire? What's a lawyer? What's
It's a Juris Doctorate. It's a doctorate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you should call me doctor. I like it.
So sharks, though, 45 years ago, and I've already said this once before, but 45 years ago, once a year, encounter with a shark. Traditionally, it was a tiger.
Yep.
And he simply wanted the fish, and if you gave him the fish, he went with the fish and could care less about you. But if you didn't, he would drop those fins. He would arch his back, and he'd let you know, and the colors would start flashing on his side, and he'd let you know that that's his fish. And he was clear about it, but it was just territorial and food.
Right.
What these things are doing is that, so 45 years ago, once a year. 35 years ago, once during the summer, maybe twice, and then 20 years ago, once per month. And nowadays it's multiple times per dive. Yeah. Something's very different.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
And it is the protection that they've had.
I think I think when they were finning real heavy and the numbers were down, it may have changed the population dynamics.
It has, yeah.
And now they've tightened it up and cut it off completely.
Well, how many tigers did you see the other day?
Oh, I don't know, a lot. I mean, whether or not they were the same ones, hard to tell, but at least 4 or 5 different ones on the same
Not
spot.
bulls, tigers.
Oh, tigers, no, none. I hadn't seen a tiger.
How many sand tigers did you see?
None. I hadn't seen it. I hadn't
I've seen one sand tiger this year.
I hadn't seen a true tiger shark in 3-4 years.
And that's fine with me.
Yeah. So
it
tigers,
looks like a submarine going by.
Yeah. Other than the bull, the tigers are the other aggressive one.
Well, they'll definitely. I mean, you want to keep your hands out of their mouth.
But
sure.
they telegraph really well. You know if a tiger is mad at you. Yeah. It's so clear. It's just like a dog. The hair stands up on their back, and they bow.
It's
up.
Probably not scientifically accurate, but the way I'm going to describe them, a sand tiger and a tiger shark are more like bottom fish. Okay,
right.
Even though that's probably not scientifically accurate, that's usually where you encounter them. Okay, bull shark, you will encounter them every single place in the water column, from the bottom all the way to the very tip top.
Stephen was trying to get in the boat the other day, and there was a bull circling his fins.
Yeah, he was like on my fence.
Wow.
And his fins are 4 feet long. I don't know if he thought that was something flashy or what. But
they'll follow you all the way from the bottom.
Right up to the boat.
All the way to the boat. And the same thing with the Duskies and the sandbars. I mean, those are different kinds of sharks, pelagic sharks, that you have to deal with in a different way when you're coming up and doing. I mean, I had a 10-minute deco stop the other day just because we were sitting on the bottom pulling up teeth, so you're racking up a lot of deco. So I had a 10-minute deco stop plus probably 5 minutes of ascent, so 15 minutes in the water column. Okay, once you traditionally in the past, once you dealt with the sand tiger or the tiger on the bottom and the fish you had, you were done with it.
You're clear.
You're clear. You come to the top and you're done. Now it's from the time you're on the bottom to the time you're on the top, you're watching your back. You're circling, you're watching your back.
Spin and swimming backwards up the rope if you have a rope.
Yeah, spinning around, fighting sharks off with your spear gun. You know, I told
And you had no fish the
I
other day.
Didn't have a fish. Didn't have a fish.
It's gotten stupid.
It has. It's gotten crazy. And I don't know if I hear from the Florida guys, we're not alone, that the same thing's happening in Florida. I don't know if the same thing's happening in the Northeast. I don't know if it's different or not, but I know that here things are different and they're worse from a diver's perspective.
So
and from a fisherman's perspective too, because it's harder to get a fish to the top.
Oh, yeah.
So is this a conspiracy to where they've actually created an environment where spear fishermen can't spear?
There you go.
There you go.
There you go. They're out for you. They're out for you.
All they had to do was increase the shark population.
That was it. That's how you get rid of fishermen.
They're about to convince me.
Well, I can tell you one thing. If you go trolling in the Gulf Stream right now, you're going to be lucky if you get 50% of your fish to the boat. That's what I've been told.
Last time we wahoo fished 3 weeks ago, last time we wahoo fished, we caught one wahoo, got him in the boat, and then we got into the blackfin, and we caught head after head after head. I mean, just cutting them right off behind the gills.
And, you know, I mean, wahoo's faster than tuna, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But I might be wrong. But I think they are. But tuna is not slow. And it's amazing how they target them as soon as they get hooked up.
Yeah.
They're on it.
They just love tuna.
You know when you're on that fight where you got that little pull back, and you're fighting, and all of a sudden you get that, like, oh my God, what do we have? No, it's not what you have; it's what you had. Yeah.
I like tuna too.
I do
I
too.
don't blame them.
I do too.
You know, I mean, even deep dropping, it's gotten bad out there too. Deep dropping, you set up, you drop your stuff 600, 700 feet. You start bringing it up, and 200 feet before it even gets to the boat, you see the shark circling the boat waiting for it. It's like they know it's coming, and they don't have to dive down there 200 or 300 feet to get it. They just wait for it at the boat, and when it gets 20 feet from the boat.
Now, out there it's going to be the Duskies and the Bronze Whaler. Am I right on that? The Bronze Whaler and the Duskies, is that normally what you're going to find out there?
Normally, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yep. And there are some sandbars out there, too.
Sandbar would be the shark that will, or is that a sand tiger? What's the one that's at Ripley's Aquarium? The bigger one.
Sand tigers.
That's sand tiger. Okay.
Yeah, the bars have got this
With the teeth rolling out the front.
Yeah, they're unbelievable. Yeah.
Ugly.
The bars have got this like almost like a sandy colored stripe down their back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I took my 14-year-old granddaughter and put her in front of a sand tiger to get a good shot one day, a good picture. And he was just hovering over the wreck, and he wouldn't budge. So I took her and placed her in front of him and took the picture. Her mom was not happy about that. I don't know why.
Imagine that. Imagine that.
Sand tigers, man. You know what they're thinking. You don't know what a bull's thinking.
Yeah.
Back to the teeth, the most interesting part of this conversation. There was a guy at the dock in Wilmington with a 5-gallon bucket of teeth. Now, I'm telling you, that's taking a lot of them.
Wow.
Yeah, so we had this conversation the other day too, whether or not you can run out, and the theory is by some, and I haven't subscribed to either theory, but the theory is by some, a shark loses about 100 teeth a year. Okay, they lived from 8 million to 20 million years ago, so they lived for 12 million years. Mm-hmm. A shark loses a tooth let's just say a tooth every day. I mean, just a shark's losing a bunch of teeth a year for 12 million years.
How long does a shark live?
Times all the sharks that are in the ocean.
12 years? How long does a shark live?
Oh, we got to do some math over here.
I bet you a megalodon lives.
This is exactly what he said he wanted to do in the show. Remember, he said he wants to. He's going to be a part of the show now. He's going to be in the corner,
Mr. Producer,
and he's looking up all our stats.
Yeah, I bet you a megalodon. I mean, the big fish live a long time. I bet you a megalodon lived 100 years. Bet you.
I don't. What does that mean?
I have never seen that.
Oh, a lot. E to the 10th.
Wow.
So that means 10 zeros.
4.8 e to the 10th.
That's a billion. 10
That's
zeros.
4.8 plus a billion, so that's going to
Wow.
400 billion teeth laying there.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
But, I was reading a book last night about fossils to the kids, and it said 90 to 98% of the animals that died never became fossilized.
Right. I mean,
So-
you've got to have an event that creates a place where that tooth's going to lay. I would imagine they're prehistoric or some sort of volcanic activity involved with the teeth that are currently on the bottom that then packs them immediately before the worms and the other events or the other environments get to them.
Well, just think about it. Earthquakes, water, wind, air, in general, bacteria, all the things that eat bone and teeth and, traditionally.
Yep.
All of those things have to lose to the mud and the oxygen in order to create a fossil. So I think that's probably right. 90 to 95% of the teeth probably never got fossilized.
So now these fossils, you guys are just, did you have to do any digging to find them, or are they sitting there exposed, or?
No, I had a scooter, and one time I blew a hole that was about 3 feet deep, and I did find a tooth in the bottom of the hole, but it got everything around me so silted up I couldn't see, and there was no current, so it didn't carry the silt off. So I just backed off of that hole and went to a different area under a ledge, and there was no reason to blow. You could just if you got used to what you were looking for, you got used to looking for the shape or the color or whatever.
Just like flounder.
Yeah, it's just like flounder.
When you see the shape, you know.
You get
Now, the bigger ones will have barnacles or anything growing on them, or are they?
Some of them did, some of them didn't. Just depends on where they're laying. Some of the teeth were actually laying, and I think this is from the storm. Some of the teeth were actually laying up on top of the ledge. Some of the teeth were laying down where you would normally think there was sand, but most of the sand had been washed away.
The teeth on the ledge, though, had the same growth as the ledge.
That's right. They looked like the ledge. They had the coral. They had the barnacles. They looked like the ledge material. The teeth that were laying down on the bottom did not.
How was the current down there?
None.
Really?
No current.
0.
That's crazy because here, you guys were up north, but here we had a fairly good current the other morning or the other day when we were king mackerel fishing. Again, one day I fished 120 foot of water, and another day 65 foot. But what we tried to do is I looked at everybody the day before and I said, here's what we're going to do, y'all. I said, we're going grouper fishing, and we're going to put some drift lines out for kings because I've caught some of my biggest kings with drift lines. And, man, I had the trolling motor spot locked and everything, and the boat was just going crazy. I put some live baits out with helium balloons, and we were having a nightmare getting 12 and 16 ounces lead to stay on the bottom. And then the amberjacks took over. And one thing you learn about me, when it comes to grouper, I don't love one enough to fight 10 amberjacks for one. I don't love them that much. No. So we went back to trolling.
That's another thing I know we're way off topic. That's another thing that has exploded. When they stopped amberjacks from being killed with bang sticks or power heads, whenever that was, 25 years ago, the amberjack population, you can't, everywhere you go, every single place you go, there's, a 50-pound amberjack waiting to ruin your day.
And you can't spear them. They'll ruin your rig.
They'll ruin everything.
Your rig.
The only way to kill them is power head them under the water. The only way to effectively deal with them is power head them under the water. And you can't do that anymore.
And why does nobody eat them here?
Worms.
The worms and the rear end of them.
Which they say if you get past the worms, that the meat's not bad. I've got.
And they don't have them they don't have them
in the Gulf?
Yeah,
Nope.
in the Gulf. I cooked it for y'all one year, the front, like the shoulder of it.
You didn't know it, but.
And I'm not sure you knew it. You might have known it, but at the beach house, I cooked it for everybody one year, the shoulders, and it was okay. I wouldn't say there was anywhere close to as good as grouper or anything else. But, it's edible. It's just not something that I would spend a lot of time on.
Well, they leave 7 Sea Seafood here in Merle's Inlet loaded up on an 18-wheeler heading north. A lot.
Really?
Good for them.
Them and king mackerel.
Yeah, I guess sometimes I've cut a couple open before and they're totally infested.
Right.
From shoulder all the way down to the tail fin. But sometimes you get some shoulder meat out of them that are they don't have.
That's what I do. You sound like me because I kept saying shoulder, like a fish has a shoulder. I'm like, I always told people, I said, well, we can cut it open and see, but you hate to kill a 60. I just personally, this goes. I don't. I mean, but you hate to kill a 60-pound fish to literally get 3 pounds of fish out of it. You know,
And I've gotten to a point where there's so many of them. I think we ought to start killing them.
killing them.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree.
Well, it's all about the dominant fish species and what's occurring and the way that the biosphere down there is changing.
I wish they could. Do they eat red snapper?
I wish we could figure that out.
But
I mean, you just need to take a fish bat and beat them in the head every time you catch one.
Fish bat.
Yeah, I mean, you could not keep up with them. There's so many of them, you could not keep up with them. And you really, on most spots, it's so hard to get beyond the amberjack to catch a bottom fish anymore.
Yep. That you're right about that. Especially, I mean, I had 16 beautiful pinfish, and I knew as soon as I dropped the first one down there, and it was an AJ. I knew we were not going to get any other baits down there.
No, you won't.
I knew it.
We're catching them in 600 feet of water.
Wow.
600
Amberjack,
feet
yep.
of amberjack.
And so back to the teeth.
Yep.
The fishermen are continuously taking over the conversation in this room. So it was the one of the most difficult dives I've been on in a while as far as being involved in the dive.
And you didn't even get in the water.
Because these guys will work you to death trying to keep them supplied with all the toys they need as they go over the side.
Yeah.
And then pick me up. I'm over here. I'm doing this. I need that. I lost this. And my scooter came back. My brand new scooter came back. Half of it.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Are you?
Yes, I am.
You really are?
I feel bad about it.
Okay.
All right, what happened?
I don't know. It was either a shark problem or a ledge problem or getting in the back of the boat problem, but the whole control, the scooter's got two handles.
Right, two handles.
Right.
Yep. One of them's a trigger control, batteries and everything.
Yeah, and that whole trigger control's gone. It's just when I never knew it until we got gear off and picked it up, and I'm like, where's this trigger?
I just wanted to make sure I got that in. It's on tape.
In other words, somewhere in North Carolina, or probably by now it's somewhere else. But
It's negative buoyancy, so it's on the bottom in North Carolina.
how often do you use a scooter? You like
Every
to use
time.
one?
Every single time. Yeah.
They're great in the river.
But it's not the old 75-pound scooter this big, which
Right.
was a pain.
Yep.
You don't want to. I mean, either it got broken or it broke something in the back of the boat, or it took up way more room than it was worth.
Yeah.
The Pelican case for our big old DRV scooters used to be 4 by 4 feet by 4 feet. No, 3 feet by 3 feet.
Wow.
That's a big piece of real estate inside that boat. So this thing is the size of a big light.
I'm going to ask a dumb question for all the listeners out there. So with that, I know that helps you can move around easier, blah, blah, blah. Does it help? Does it increase your time underwater?
No, we don't.
By not having to.
We don't use them for mobility.
Okay.
We use them for cleaning sand off the bottom.
I do.
Well,
when I'm coming back to a boat, all I do is just relax and pull myself back to the boat with it.
Well, I understand, but that's not the main
Against
purpose.
the current.
The main
It's nice.
Blow.
The main
sand
purpose is to uncover fossils.
Correct.
Yeah. You just turn it upside down, you put it against your chest, and you hit the button, and you blow the sand off of the fossil bed.
And for that, it's a miracle.
Nice.
But you really didn't need it the other day. I mean, the teeth that we found in the ocean the other day were just laying on top.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I know we are sitting here. We're gonna actually. I mean, heck, I think we've pretty much done a podcast about fossils. We've done another one, but you actually had a good hunt. You
did.
actually had a good hunt. Podcast number 32 or 31. 32 was about our planned trip that you had for Colorado, and you ended up having a very successful hunt. And let's talk about it, man. A beautiful picture I got. I'm super excited. Can't wait to get some fresh elk.
I will. I'll start.
Luck on the elk.
I'll start with my failure. Okay, my failure was
To take your father.
well maybe that's true. My failure is I'm a terrible camera guy, and I did not get any footage of the shot. So go ahead. You can.
No, it's okay.
Yeah,
No.
I know what you're thinking. I see the smile, the smirk.
Nope, I'm not
on
saying a
your
word.
face.
I kid. No, listen, I couldn't imagine everything that's got to go right to kill an elk anyway.
Well,
For you by yourself at that point, because
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, you're by yourself.
Yeah.
Rick's somewhere else,
Yeah.
blowing his bugle or doing whatever he does, and and you're somewhere else. And no, I can understand. So no, there's no there. You'll not hear one negative word out of me.
But every other scope in the catalog has a camera built into it with a chip in it.
Yeah, I don't have that.
But we don't have that.
So what I do have, however, is footage of the recovery.
Yep.
And I've got footage of the quartering.
Quartering.
I do almost always. I do a gutless quartering method. So obviously that means you don't take the guts out, especially when you're by yourself. It's very difficult by yourself and on a hillside and with erosion and washout from the burns and the fires. Very difficult to maneuver an elk and take its guts out and do it the traditional method. So I do a gutless method, which basically means you cut down its backbone, you fold the skin down on both sides all the way down, and then you take one quarter at a time. You alternate between like front right shoulder, left hind quarter, and then you go take the front left shoulder, and then you go take the right hind quarter. You lay them down on the skin that you skinned out. You take the legs off at the knuckles. You don't need a bone saw to do that if you cut through the knuckle properly. Then you take the back straps out right off the top of the elk. Then you reach up underneath the rib cage and you pull the loins out. Cut the head off as high as you can on the neck, at least for me, because I don't cape them. And then that's it. And you're done. And you pack them up and you walk them out one at a time. But we have video of that.
Yep.
So we have an instructional video on that. But I do not have video of the shot, which I will tell you about now. So we were.
You're in the western slope.
We're in
Colorado.
We're in the western slope. Thank you. And
What elevation?
like 9,500 feet.
Okay.
And there's this little strip of public land that's about 200 yards long coming off of the road, the public road, and then it opens up into hundreds of thousands of acres of public land. So we parked right where the public land is, starts on the public road, walked in, and before we had gotten to the opening where it opens up to 300, 400, 500,000 acres, I could see a highway of elk activity. I mean, there's fresh crap, there's sun, there's everything you would want right there. I mean, it's all fresh. And I looked at Rick and I said, Rick, we don't need to do much. We need to sit right here on a hillside close by and watch this area as it gets dark. Because it was about noon when we were walking in. And we had expected to walk back 6-7 miles and hunt. So we don't need to do that. We need to sit close and monitor this area. And he was adamant. He wanted to walk way back where we were planning on going. So I reluctantly agreed. We start walking back, and he points up this hill, and he says, we got to go up this hill. And I looked at him, and I said, Rick, I said, I'm just going to tell you right now, this is a dumb idea. I said, I'm looking at it. I can tell you, I'll follow you up there. If you really want to do it, I'll follow you up there. But this is a dumb idea. Let me say it right now. He would not deny that. So we start up this hill. I swear to y'all, it's got to be a 20-degree, maybe 25-degree incline. And if you hadn't done that in a while, go get on a treadmill and see if you can get it at 20 or 25 degrees.
Oof.
It's hands and knees the entire time, pulling yourself up 3 feet, sliding back 5 feet. Pulling yourself up 3 feet, sliding back 5 feet. Took us 2 hours to get to the top of that hill doing that, okay? We finally get to the top of that hill. We're drenched in sweat. We're tired. We're muddy, covered in soot because it had burned a couple of years ago. Covered in soot. I got soot in my nose. I got soot in my ears and my eyes. It was just painful. You know, one of those things you just do not want to do again. We finally get to the top, and we get to this old, it's like an old grown over logging road or something at the top of this mountain. And we start walking it back. And we walked it back, and we walked it back, and we walked it back until we got to some dark timber. and a little overlook. And we sat there for 2 hours and called, and we saw nothing. Nothing. Heard nothing. So finally I said, Rick, that's enough. So we started working our way back down the mountain, back to where I could at least see the road. You know, we were way too high in elevation to take a shot, but at least I could see the road. I could see our truck 2 miles away or 3 miles away. I could see the path where all the elk were taken. At least I could see it from there. Okay.
Right.
So I get down there, and Rick says, you don't want to go down there any farther. You're going to cliff yourself. He's been on this hill before. So you're going to cliff yourself. I said, I don't care. I just want to get to a vantage point that I can see. So he gets mad because I'm going to go cliff myself. So he takes off down the mountain by himself. And I'm watching him, and I'm hearing him, and I'm hearing rocks like falling, and I'm just listening. And every now and then I could see a piece of orange, you know, working its way down. And an hour later, I see him pop out down the bottom of the hill. And he walks right through the tracks of the elk where we saw down in the valley, walks right through them, walks right up into a hill where I said we needed to sit first, you know, right when we walked in. We need to sit right there on that hill. He sits down right into that hillside, which was a good spot.
Is that the same little left look over where we sit for deer occasionally?
We were way farther back up in there.
Okay.
So, I mean, like an hour drive by car farther back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a lot farther back up in there. So, anyway, about, 5 minutes after Rick gets sat down, these 2 cow elk were on the side of the mountain where he must have walked right past them. And they just stayed bedded down, tried to hide from him, I guess. And they finally popped up. And I heard them talking, and then I heard them walking. And I popped up, and I finally got my eyes on them. And I said to myself, there's going to be a bull somewhere following these cow or elk around. So I just slowly but surely followed them as they worked their way down the mountain and never spooked them. Wind was blowing in my face. So just picked my way down the mountain real slow. I mean, real slow. Took me a long time to get down. These 2 elk, they go down, they cross right where Rick crossed, and they get up into the hillside. It wasn't, I'm 100 yards off of the main path where I saw the elk and 100 yards from the valley on a side hill, overlooking another hill on the other side of the valley where the elk are, where the 2 cow elk are.
Was your tag either sex?
No, my tag was just a bull tag.
Okay.
5 minutes after those cow elk got to the bottom and got on the hillside across from me, here comes this bull through the valley. He's sort of trotting, working his way up towards where those cows went. I immediately took off my pack, dropped the pack, dropped down on the one knee, put my scope on the elk, took my gun off of safety, and put it on the elk. The elk's running right past the point, the little hillside where Rick is. Okay? And I'm saying, I could have shot him right there. And I said to myself, all right, Rick's going to shoot any minute. No shot.
Waiting on the shot.
And the elk's getting closer to me. I said, Rick's going to shoot any minute. No shot. Finally, the elk has passed Rick. There's no way Rick can see the bull anymore. And he's 100, 150 yards from me on the other hillside, starting to side hill his way up into the mountains. And I said, well, that was Rick's only opportunity. And so I took a shot, and I will tell you, I'll be honest with you, it was not a precise shot. It was a shot intended to just get some lead into him to stop him because he was about to disappear from my sight forever. He was quartering away and sort of trotting through some thick stuff, and I just put it on him and pulled the trigger, and it just dropped him. And it dropped him. I saw his head. I saw him fall, and I saw his head sort of flopping around, so I thought I didn't hit him great. So I put another one in him. I jacked another round and put another one in him, and he flopped over dead. And I walked to the bottom of the mountain, 100 yards down, got into the valley where all the elk
had been going.
Yeah, where all the elk had been going through. And here comes Rick. What'd you shoot? I said, the bull that ran right past
in front of you.
He said, I never saw any bull. I said, I know. You must not have seen him. You must not have seen him.
Oh,
Poor Rick.
And I felt terrible for him. But what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So that's where we finally got our stuff together, Inglis, down at the bottom, and we cut the video camera on, and that's where the recovery started.
Yeah, I got great video of the recovery, walking up to it, and great video. The great video of the quartering. That's going to be awesome. Get that edited and get that up there. Now, I did mention some fresh elk meat that should be coming its way back home. Then I heard your dad earlier talking about how many coolers he would have to pay for to get it back. What's the process with an elk?
Oh man!
How long does it dry? How long do they hang? How long do they need to hang it?
Well, there is a. The answer to your question is they'll hang it for a few days, but I mean there's a big process to it. Unlike a whitetail,
Right.
I mean,
Well, you're talking. In some cases, 5 times as much meat.
well, yeah. I mean, but it took us a good 5.5 or 6 hours to get the elk from where it laid to the truck.
Oh wow.
Okay, and we really, if we'd have killed him where Rick took us, we would have still been packing him.
Y'all still packing?
You do not want to do that. We'd still been packing him. We really didn't kill him. Maybe, I don't know, a mile from the truck. But
Stephen was asking for help. I saw the text.
I did. I texted everybody that I knew out there, which is really only about 1 or 2 people, and said, is anybody available to come help us? Because it was in sort of a nasty spot. And the one guy that texted back said, I'm driving an Avalon this week because my truck's transmission blew out.
Ooh.
So
I did see a picture of that Avalon sitting in 4-foot-high mesquite bushes.
yeah.
Can you imagine what the front of that car looks like?
So he was no help. So it was just 2 of us. So it took us about 6 hours to get it from where he laid back to the truck. Thankfully, we only had to make 2 trips. I was wearing if you know me very well, you know that I'm cheap on hunting gear. I do not like to spend a lot of money on hunting gear. Rick is the total opposite. He is a gear nut, loves to buy the biggest, best stuff there is. I want to just get by. So I went to Bass Pro last week. No offense to Bass Pro. I went to Bass Pro the week before I went elk hunting and got a new pack because my previous Bass Pro pack had kicked the bucket last year. So I bought a brand new Ascent 65-liter, which I thought I could easily stick a hind quarter in, 65-liter Ascent backpacking pack, not a real hunting pack.
Right.
It's got like a carbon fiber internal frame, not a pack frame.
Y'all didn't take a pack frame?
We had a pack frame in the back of the truck.
A mile away.
In the back of the truck.
Yeah, a mile away. So very first pack out, I had, if you've never done this before,
Nope.
you sort of weigh your options, okay? And here are your options. Your options are you can go heavy and make less trips, or you go light and make more trips, okay? And you make that determination early on. So we decided, while we still have energy, we decided heavy, less trips. Okay, so first trip, I took a hind quarter, the loins, and the back straps in my 65-liter Bass Pro Special.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay, $140.
That's a lot.
Bass Pro Special. And the straps broke. Okay.
That's 150 pounds?
It's, the hind quarter as it was probably 120, and, back straps and tenderloins. So
Have you ever seen a back strap on an elk?
No.
It's that big.
Oh,
it's
wow.
that big around, and
It's
it's
as big as your thigh.
4 feet long, right?
And 4 feet long, and you're just sitting there with mouth watering. And you don't have to treat it like a whitetail. It is just phenomenal.
So straps broke very, very first trip out. Had a strap.
You and Bass Pro have not had really good history the last 2 years. Keep going, though.
The chest strap broke. If you've ever had real heavy weight on a pack, you know that you got to have that chest strap.
That's important.
You got to, because all the weight then spreads out, and you're carrying 150 pounds then on your shoulders, and it's just nasty. So it was a very nasty pack out for me. Second trip, I grabbed the pack frame in the back of the truck. The problem is we had already committed to 2 trips. So second trip out, I carried a hind quarter and the head in that pack frame.
Ooh.
And I had the way that the head was positioned, because it didn't have enough room with the hind quarter, the way the head was positioned, I had to hold the antlers out like this the whole time. And it was so tight on my shoulders and my arms had fallen asleep and were just numb walking like this. And of course it was 11 o'clock at night and we're like stumbling, got headlamps. I got 170 plus pounds on my back hiking out of this nasty thing.
And you start wondering why there's stars in front of you instead of above you.
Yeah,
those are the stars where you can't breathe.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're at 9,500, 10,000 feet, packing out 170 pounds on a steep hill. It's just,
wow.
It's nasty, nasty stuff.
Wow.
You can't tell the difference between what's in front of you, the trail, and the sky, because of the stars and your peripheral vision closing in. It's scary.
That's crazy. Do you mark your trail? Had y'all marked it? Okay.
We did. We had marking tape, orange marking tape, and we also, we use Onyx. And I'm telling you, Onyx has changed. For me, Onyx has changed hunting. It's made it so much easier. This is the stuff that you used to have to, do, breaking sticks and making marks with your feet and all that kind of stuff you used to have to do anymore. You just hit track. And regardless of whether you got a cell phone signal or not, it just draws you a line where you've been, and you just follow that line back. You put an X on where the elk is, and you just follow that thing. It's amazing. You can go around big boulders. You can go around stuff that you couldn't, walk around before. So it's really nice. Onyx is if you don't have Onyx, it's a tool you got to have, especially hunting out west.
And a pack frame, you know what that is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the pack frame. I know that's very important.
But I did buy. I broke down this week because of my troubles, and I bought a KUIU. I don't know what KUIU calls it, but it's basically it's got a pack frame, with a lip, with the beaver tail or the lip, whatever you want to call it, that sits up against your back, and then the actual pack sits around it like that. So it folds up against your back, the lip folds up against your back, and the pack sits behind that. And then when you're ready to put an elk quarter on it, a hind quarter, you fold that down. The elk quarter sits just like this, and then the backpack pulls it in up against you. It's a brilliant design, and it's rated for like 180 pounds or something.
So will you need that? But this next trip back will only be for mule.
It's for mule deer, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a mule deer, second season mule deer tag for November 1st through the 5th. We're going to be hunting some of the same stuff, some of the same areas. It's going to be a little cooler this week.
Is Rick going to be making this trip with you as well?
Oh, yeah.
Rick is going.
Rick's there.
He doesn't have a tag this time, but he's going.
We ate mule deer for 3 days one time. We ran out of meat up there. And what was the name of that cabin? That was not Fur. It was Tom's cabin. What's the name of that hill?
Up on top of Logan.
And we ran out of meat. We had a muley hanging in the tree, so we ate back straps for 3 days.
Mule deer is actually good.
Well, I heard it was.
It is good.
The guys out west, they eat elk, and so they don't think a lot of mule deer, but compared to our whitetail, mule deer is really good.
Okay.
And I love a mule deer. They pop up out of the grass.
I love their running.
They hop 20 yards, they turn around silhouette and look back at you. And you're like, thank you, God.
Thank you. Yep.
That bow is set for 20 yards, and you just lob one at them. And you know what's going to happen. They've got to look one time. They can't stand. They're curious.
No, they stop to look
They
back.
stop, and they'll hop exactly sideways or silhouette, and they'll give you the shot. If you're ready, it's a sweet time.
So how do you score? All right, so with elk is what, 6 buys or 4 buys or whatever with the antlers, right? With the rack and
mule
deer same way.
Same way.
Yep.
Anything bigger than a 3 buy on a mule deer is usually pretty good.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, you're looking for the same thing. You're looking for mass.
Right.
You're looking for width. You're looking for height. I mean, on a good trophy mule deer. But, unless it's a non-typical, they usually will not get more than 3 buys on one side. Sometimes they get 4 buys on one side. I mean, sometimes they get 6 or 7 buys on one side. But, I'd say your average mule deer is a 3 by 3, somewhere in the, 140 to 160 inch range.
Wow. That's average.
For different units are obviously different, right?
Right.
And everybody has their own. A lot of people just go to shoot one for the meat, but an average trophy size mule deer would be a 3x3 or a 3x4 in the 150 inch range. That would be a good, respectable mule deer.
Now, the elk you killed, comparable to these?
He's got. I know our listeners cannot see
Yeah,
it.
they can't see. So we're looking at the Trilogy Studio here at the trophy wall, and
So the one behind you is a giant public land bull with
Right.
an archery. That's 363 and a third, and that's a big, big bull for archery. Okay, he's not that.
yeah,
This bull, we call that the 5-minute bull because I killed him in the first 5 minutes.
Really?
That bull, he's about that wide and about that high, but a little more mass. A little more mass than that.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mules, I forget, they're real long. It seems like their antlers are real long.
And if you get any brow tines on a mule deer whatsoever, it's special. They don't.
Okay.
They almost never have. Maybe a nub like that, But yeah, that's a really big mule deer. That's a 200-inch mule deer
Wow.
that he's showing a picture.
What's your biggest?
No, I've got one mule deer, and so not very big. I would like a big trophy mule deer. I've killed quite a few bull elk now. I'm looking for a nice, respectable mule deer.
Did you see any mule deer while you were hunting?
We did. I'm trying to think if we saw a shooter. I don't think we saw a shooter buck, but we weren't really looking for them,
Right.
That area that they're in, they're everywhere. They're in every hayfield every night, so you can see lots of them.
But he's right. But the habitats where you're hunting are a little bit different, just a little bit, and it's hard to explain. But most of the time, mule deer habitat are the hills along the mountains.
Right.
And we're hunting the elk. We're up in the mountains in the dark timber. Now you will see, you go do something stupid like we did and hike to the top of a mountain, and every now and then you'll see a lone buck track walking. If you've never been on the top of a mountain, and a lot of people on the East Coast have not.
Right.
Literally,
Yeah.
sometimes you get to the top of a mountain and it's like 3 feet wide. And you look up at this giant mountain and you're like, dang, that's a big mountain. And it is a big mountain. And then you get to the top and you realize it's like as wide as that desk. But you'll get to the top and you'll see one big buck track walking the ridge the whole way. So they do take some weird routes.
Wow.
They'll do some weird stuff. But the majority of what you believe to be mule deer habitat would be the hills. Underneath steep, craggy stuff.
Yeah, it seems like everything I've watched and seen and videos and everything else, it's the hay fields and everything,
Mm-hmm.
or they're in an area that's hay fields with some big crevasses or whatever you want to call it, and they love to bed down inside of those. And
Yep. The traditional pattern for mule deer is they feed in the hay fields early in the morning, late in the afternoon, and then they filter back up into the hills. So the hay fields are almost all private, right? Anything down low in the valley on the western slope is going to be private.
Right.
Just about everything. So they're feeding the easy place to kill them, they're on private. And then they go back to bed up into the public. And that's where you try to catch them.
you ever go knocking on people's doors? I got friends that go to South Dakota every year, or South Dakota, and they just go knocking on doors. Hey, you got ducks all in. Do you ever do that with mule deer out there? Do you go find the owner and say, hey?
If I saw a big buck in somebody's field and it wasn't, one of the issues, I'll answer your question. The answer is I would do it if I found one on a piece of private that was obvious to me that it was, a farmer or a rancher or something like that. But most of that stuff that you're talking about is oil and gas, and they've got 120,000 acres. And you'd have to go through some guy in Texas to figure out who.
Okay.
That's problem number one. The problem number two is most of these places that have a lot of elk or deer have hunting rights attached to them.
Yep.
So there's already somebody that's got a hunting lease on it.
And the ranchers are craggy, man. They're not. You taking your life in your hands driving up in their driveway.
Yeah, that's true.
They are not. I think the people of Colorado are wonderful people. They're very nice, very outgoing, but a lot of the landowners have had it, and they've been through a lot, so they're not very friendly.
Oh, wow.
I think they might be a little more friendly on deer than they would be on elk. Most people are pretty protective of their elk. They land on one side or the other in Colorado. They land on anti-hunting side or they land on the hunting side, right? I mean, that's the two natural sides to be on. If you're the anti-hunter, you're not going to let anybody hunt. If you're the hunter, you're not going to let anybody hunt because they're your elk, right?
Bottom line, nobody hunts.
So there's not a lot in between there if you're a private rancher. But most of the land you'll find out there in big tracts is oil and gas leases.
Wow.
We've got a few really nice friends out there that we've developed and grown to love over the years, so it's been good.
Yeah, it has been.
Even though when he comes out to visit, he has terrible fishing trips, according to him. One of them.
You talking about Jim Giese?
Yep.
Jim Giese is the king of sea urchin catching.
Sea urchin.
The sea urchin catcher.
Turtling. He loves turtling.
Turtling and sea
Him
urchin
and his
catching.
son used to go around catching turtles out of the ponds. I could not figure out why.
Are you kidding me? They love
They
turtles.
love turtles.
They eat them.
Funniest thing. No, I don't think so.
They just like catching
It's
them.
catch and release.
Oh my God, with turtles.
Turtling. That's his word. He has a
Wow.
lot of words that he makes up.
Wow.
Turtling.
Well, I'll tell you what. What else you have to cover here? Anything else? I just want to talk real quick about the videos. I'll get to work on these and where you'll be able to find them. And I'll get this underwater video done and get the recovery and the quartering instructional how-to video ready. But
So we'll have an instructional video on how to gutless clean an elk, and you could use it for deer too. You could use it right here for a whitetail if you wanted to do it. So many people just pick up whitetail and throw it in the back of the truck and carry it to the processor. But if you have the desire to do it on your own, you could learn it. We will do it in, how should we do it, Inglis? Should we do it like a, what do you call it when you speed it up? Time lapse?
yeah, time lapse. Yeah, but we definitely, from watching the video that we looked at, yeah, we probably do. Like maybe.
So there's 4 hours of cleaning there because an elk's a big critter, and
Yeah.
But maybe there's a way we could link to the full video too. I don't know. We'll figure that out. But we'll do a time lapse for entertainment, and maybe we'll do the full video for educational purposes.
All right, so here's what I'm going to request between now and then. Make sure so on this mule deer, since Rick is not hunting, so he has no excuse to be anywhere other than away with you. So we'll get a harvest shot on that one, right?
We should. Rick should be videoing. You can blame it on Rick if he's not.
Well, I will, because we need that. That would be great. And it's nice to live vicariously through you on these trips, and whether they're in the mountains or below the surface, it's great. Mr. Steve, thank you so much for coming in. And by the way, we have exactly almost 3 weeks, and our show will be back on. I noticed you're wearing your Yellowstone.
It is going to be
vest.
back on. Love it. And we enjoyed having you at the house a couple of weeks ago. That was a lot of fun.
I appreciate it, and we did have a good time. And Stephen over here coaxed me into getting past my fear of heights, and I did have a nice little helicopter flight. That was great, and that's a great little deal y'all do. I know y'all moved the times of the year you do it, but
So nice.
nice to
So
repay
cool.
those guys. They seemed very appreciative.
We love our law enforcement, and we support them all the time.
Absolutely, I couldn't imagine not having law enforcement.
Hey,
God be with those that wish for that.
yeah, exactly. Hey, before we go, plug the rodeo.
All right, so here's the deal. On the Grand Strand Fishing Rodeo, you got to download Eventbrite. You really don't have to download Eventbrite, but Eventbrite is the way to go about. Get on Eventbrite, look up Grand Strand Fishing Rodeo. It's really simple. I've had a couple people that had trouble getting signed up, and it was on their problems, not on ours. But once you get signed up, I'll get an email notification, and then you'll get an email with the rules and with your number. Your entry number is what you need. You'll print that entry number, and every time you catch your fish this month, in our first month, you'll have catfish, crappie, and brim for freshwater. In saltwater is king mackerel, speckled trout, and black sea bass. That's 3 good ones, and that's covering all our saltwater. We went with 3 and 3.
Yep.
You'll take that picture on the boat or on the pier or on the beach or wherever you're fishing. Take that picture with your team number, with your number, not team number. And then you'll take that fish to Stalby's Bait and Tackle, to Base Boys Bait and Tackle, to what we're still working out the piers thing because we had the piers shut down. But you can call me as well. And that's the other thing that I've added in the rules. Call me. I will come meet you and weigh your fish for you and validate it. It has to be weighed within 12 hours of the time you get back.
You get a visit from the famous Captain E.
Yeah, I'll send Stephen.
Because the hurricane shut down a number of our piers.
Yeah, a number of our piers. And by the way, if you hadn't seen them from the ocean, it's kind of scary. And that's another thing I wanted to ask before we get out of here. But no, go get signed up. We got some incredible prizes. And I think we have pretty much finalized that our banquet is going to be at Sarah J's in Merle's Inlet. Beautiful waterfront venue there. But who do we get in touch with about getting this debris from all these piers that have caused some extreme hazards out there? What
It's a total amount that the counties have to reach. This is a FEMA issue.
Right, FEMA. That's what I figured.
It's a FEMA issue. Georgetown County, Horry County, we have to reach $9.1 or $9.2 million. Okay, in recovery costs, damage estimates. And last I heard, we were right up against it. So once we cross that threshold, all the debris can get picked up, and it's 100% back to the federal government.
So have you heard it, or have you heard about how bad it is?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. It's like a minefield. Like, literally, I can imagine, like, trying to go into Normandy.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it looks like at Paulie's.
Yeah.
It was so scary. I told the boys we were going to leave the next morning. We were looking for bait. I said, I'm not going south. I said, I will not drive south. I mean, there are that many pilings out there. Yeah. So please, if you're fishing in the Carolinas, along the coast in particular, down south between Myrtle Beach and Georgetown, please be on the lookout.
There was so much stuff in the water. I mean, even where we were up north, there was so much water, stuff in the water. There was acres of grass mats, trash mats.
And when you find those, there's going to be, if there's a reason for that grass to collect there, that current, there's going to be other stuff there.
Yeah, and there was pilings, and there was boards, and there was, I mean, it's still, what are we, 3 weeks after the hurricane now?
Shoot, yeah, 3 or 4.
4 weeks after the hurricane, and we still have, I mean, piles of trash that are piled up in the ocean.
Yep. Well, I'm going to ask you another dumb question, and it's for all our listeners. Are y'all in session now?
We were last week. I was obviously elk hunting.
Yeah, you
last
were.
week. Don't tell anybody. But we go back full time in January.
Okay, I always thought that I thought it was January through.
Yeah,
I didn't know. I knew y'all had to go together for that very hot topic a weeks ago.
And we came back last week to finish all that up, and then we go back again in January. I was told a few days ago that I am going on a 10 or 12 day trip to Africa, North Africa in January to do like risk assessment for pre-deployment risk assessment. And so I'm going to do that January 12th through the 26th, I think is when.
Right. And this will be, for those that don't know, I think we have mentioned it in the podcast prior, as of June next year, correct?
June of next year. Yep.
Captain Senator Stephen Goldfinch will be deployed.
Yep.
And will be gone for some time with the U.S. Army, and you will particularly be with Special Forces.
We have a number of, there are a number of units, but yes, there are a number of units that will be with our unit, and we're going to be dealing with Yemen problems.
Boy.
Yemen problems in the Arabian Peninsula and Northern Africa. And so I'll be going from June until January, but this January coming up to whenever
you'll go
3 months, I'll go for a sort of like a risk assessment for the unit.
So, but in this location you're going, there's already a presence.
There is a presence at the main base there in Djibouti, but you know we have to travel
out.
Yeah, we have to travel all around and out. So I'll be there for a couple weeks, and then I think we have to go up to Ramstein as well to meet with AFRICOM. So we're gonna be going for a little bit in January too.
Well, I tell you what, buddy, you'll be in our thoughts and prayers, and as all our military is, and we can't thank all of our wonderful military for all that they do. We talk about the law enforcement. The military is as important, if not more, but They're all important, especially in this day and age right now with what we're dealing with.
You'll have to hold it down without me. I'll have to figure out if there's a way for us to.
I figure we can get some phone stuff in.
We might be able to get some phone stuff in. We'll see if we can figure that out.
Yeah, we'll get that worked out. But I think we've already discussed a couple substitutes that'll sit in for you from time to time. And maybe the old man across the table will be willing to sit in every now and then.
I can speak.
Did I just say
freely.
the old man thing just like he
old
did?
Fart, yeah.
Old fart, that's
fart.
what they said.
Speak freely, I can tell the real story.
Yeah, so that's right. He won't be here.
Story.
You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, you want to hear the whole story, it always happens right here on Trilogy Outdoors. That's every week. Click, subscribe, like, please leave a like, and share it with all your friends. And, also don't forget our other brands, Southern Anglers Radio Show on the Gator 107.9 and iHeartMedia, and Trilogy Outdoors Magazine coming out next week, the new magazine, and look for a story about that elk as well, hopefully. If the senator has time. But as always, every week, some way, shape, or form, we're going to cover fins, fur, and feathers here on Trilogy Outdoors.
Trilogy Outdoors Podcast is a product of Trilogy Outdoors Media. All views and opinions of our hosts and guests are not necessarily those of our sponsors. Trilogy Outdoors is produced and edited by Trilogy Outdoors Media. Be sure to follow us on all the podcast platforms as well as our social media pages on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And also, don't forget our other brands, Southern Anglers Radio Show and Walk 'Em All Outdoor Magazine. To find more information, visit TrilogyOutdoorsMedia.com. And remember, if it's anything dealing with fins, fur, and feathers, you're going to find it right here on Trilogy Outdoors.